All right, good evening, WNBA and women's basketball fans, and welcome into another edition of the WNBA 365 Network, here 24/7, 365, comprehensive home for everything revolving around the WNBA and the rest of the women's basketball universe. Back with you folks here on a rare occurrence, Leap Day 2016, February 29th, 2016. Shorthanded equals a 30-minute program alongside both Eric Nemchok and Crystal Thomas. Cal McClure joining you folks here from Studio 171 in San Diego. Eric and KT, good evening. I know it's a little bit quiet in here tonight since we only got us three and we don't have a lot to talk about news-wise in the league. Other than that, how's it all going tonight, folks?
Perfect. I love quiet. Right up my alley.
It is going well.
So with that, folks, we are definitely open for any conversation that you may want us to bring up this evening on the program. So please feel free to hit us up on Twitter at WNBA365, at Calimac3, at Pup1010, or at Nemchocky with hashtag WNBA365. Or if you are watching us live right now, give us some thoughts and ideas on the W or the rest of the women's basketball world in our live chat box. Well, and we'll read your comments when we have a open time to get to you to your remarks this evening. Like I said, guys, not a lot news, really newsworthy to report today. A very quiet Monday in the WNBA. We'll get to a couple of stories in the college ranks and a few other stories across the wire today. But again, just not just today, folks, but a lot of the past couple of days that we've been off. Again, there's not been a lot of real big player movement since the last big free agent re-signing, which was Glory Johnson back on the 22nd. There was one small move made today by the Phoenix Mercury, who signed international player Sonja Petrovic to a contract today to kind of shore up the troops. But again, other than that, folks, not a whole lot to report on in the women's basketball world today. Some games and some games that we'll get to across college today, and some news, and then that's pretty much it for the evening. Again, only 30 minutes this evening. I guess, guys, we could start on the college level tonight, because, like I said, only one move was made today amongst the 12 teams in the WNBA by Phoenix in signing that international player beforehand today. But getting across, we'll look across the college scoreboard this evening. But again, as we kind of wait for the scores to load and come across the way, again, with some teams already clinching their spots in the tournament and or clinching their conference tournaments and conference titles already. But today, though, guys, interesting note today. Wow. Number one, UConn actually trails in the game for once, but in the end, they still come back to win by 20 over South Florida, 79-59, and Baylor takes the Big 12 title outright over Texas, 60-48. Crystal, beginning with you on this one this evening, obviously the UConn-South Florida game, probably like the lone game so far that UConn has actually had some type of competition, maybe outside of the South Carolina non-conference game earlier in the year. But again, tonight, obviously probably resting a few players. But again, you see that the Huskies trail by halftime. We're thinking, okay, they're bound to lose, right? But then again, Brianna Stewart comes in and still makes a name for herself again, and UConn still wins by 20. So again, obviously it's a rarity again that UConn trails, but again, Crystal, another case though of UConn trailing, but and again they do go ahead and win the game anyway, still by a big margin. Any thoughts about tonight's win for UConn? They're 66th in a row on this mammoth win streak they've been on.
Figured that. Wait, you guys can hear me, right?
Yep.
I kind of knew if UConn was going to lose, it wasn't going to be the USF, although they really did give them a really good game. I think a couple of UConn fans were sweating there for a little bit, and I think UConn was sweating there for a little bit because the game was I wasn't I knew they weren't going to lose to USF. I mean, USF, they're a good team, but they're just not good enough to beat a team of UConn's caliber, especially when you have a. There goes Alleyne, I think.
All right, so apparently we're having some small problems, Crystal. I think everyone's connection's kind of being, but it is a case of Mondays. But Eric, we'll stay with you though. So obviously, probably a bit of a scare. I would probably assume you probably would assume with UConn losing at the half. But then again, you know that UConn can just turn it on like that, and that was kind of what happened with the Huskies today. But again, obviously, like Crystal said, though, before we had the minor intrusion with the internet going out of commission again, but, like she said, though, is, USF was good, but not good enough, though, to give UConn their first loss in well over 65 games. But again, is this the time of year, though, that perhaps UConn fans may get a wee bit nervous, though, about possibly either losing, a little bump in the road before the tournament, or even worse, is the thought, though, as well, of perhaps an early exit in the tournament also perhaps looming large, perhaps in your mind at all, or no?
No, not at all, because I know quite a few UConn fans, and they're all pretty cocky, so, and with good reason. I mean, you said 66 straight wins. I think the deficit at halftime wasn't at all that surprising to me, because it seems like among teams in the ACC, USF always gives UConn the best games, and as far as individual performances goes, Courtney Williams always comes up to play versus UConn. UConn, I think, is the best team in the country at defending against volume scorers, but Courtney Williams just doesn't care, because she's going to get her 20 points no matter what. She's just that good. So I think this is actually a good game for UConn, because obviously they won again, but heading into the tournament, you need these sort of games as kind of like a tune-up, because you're going to be challenged in the tournament. You're going to get every team's best. You're not just going to be playing the somewhat weaker ACC competition every night. So I think this is a good experience for the Huskies, a good learning experience, if you will, and a valuable challenge heading into the bigger games.
Yeah, no, Eric, I would agree. Obviously, I would agree, though, on the aspect, though, that obviously, UConn fans obviously would kind of get that, get the arrogance and cockiness on the side, though. But like you said, though, for all the good reasons, not the right reasons, but the good reasons. Our other correspondent, Tanisha Stewart, who cannot make it tonight in the program, tweets into us saying UConn is too dominant to lose. # Nuff said. So again, UConn, despite the halftime deficit, defeats number 20 ranked South Florida tonight at Gamble Pavilion, 79-59. Crystal, going back to you with the next game, with Baylor blowing the doors off of number 6 ranked Texas 60-48 to get the Big 12 title outright this evening at home as well for the Baylor Bears. Their 30th win of the season this season for Baylor, 17-1 in the Big 12 Conference. Crystal, I guess I would start by asking, with Kim Mulkey, who's been there quite some time and has, really done a really good job with the Baylor basketball team for women down there. And in spite, that obviously when she had Brittany Griner there, they, had a pretty good run up until they were up in it a couple times in the tournament, got to the Final Four, got to the title game one year as well. I guess, Crystal, I guess I'd ask you about your thoughts about the job Kim Mulkey has done, though, at Baylor in your mind.
Well, with an outfit that Kim Mulkey had on today, you better win a game. Did y'all see that? That outfit was wild, but Kim Mulkey's a good coach. I mean, I think she's proven it. That first year without BG, they were kind of in the slump, but they picked it up, pretty much right after. So I'm not surprised they beat Texas. I mean, I knew it was going to be a good game. I obviously was waiting for this game quicker than I was waiting for the UConn USF game. I can tell you that. But I mean, I'm not really surprised. Kim Mulkey does a good job. I think the outfits give her superpowers, though. I think that's why she's such a good coach. I mean, if you have the confidence to wear some of the stuff she wears, I mean, that's how you know you have to be an awesome coach, because I could never pull that stuff off. But I think she's good for that team. I think she's good for that program, and the players buy into her. I know I've said that before, and it's kind of cliche at this moment, but I mean, they won. That they believe in her, and I think she does an amazing job.
Eric, in spite of probably the money that Kim drops from her paychecks on her wardrobe for the games, obviously, some of the best that we've seen in quite some time. Again, Eric, I guess I'd ask you this for like a tournament resume in some kind of way, and looking ahead to next month or to tomorrow when March Madness kind of gets started, but kind of not, though. But I guess I'd ask, though, Baylor 30-win season again, 1 loss all year, 1 in the Big 12 as well, 17-1. I guess I would probably ask you, if you're probably deliberating about where Baylor would be seated right now in the tournament coming up in a few weeks, where do you think, are they probably a top 5 or, a 2 through 5 seed somewhere in the regional, or where do you think that they would probably wind up, though, right now with that record again of 30 wins and a loss all year?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think tonight they proved that they're still top dog in the Big 12, and it really wasn't even that close. I mean, they've had Texas is a good team, but Baylor just has their number. They have for a while now, and I haven't really seen too many teams that are just flat out better than Baylor. UConn obviously, South Carolina maybe, Maryland maybe, but I think Baylor has a very good case of being a top seed. And like you guys said, Kim Mulkey is just an amazing coach. The job she's done post Brittany Griner era, they went from a heavily post dominant team with BG. Then they took the training wheels off Odyssey Sims per se, and she had an amazing season her senior year. And now they're just a very well balanced, terrific defensive, terrific rebounding team. So that says a lot about your coaching when you can make those sort of transitions year in and year out. So I think they're going to look at the overall record for the season, their interconference dominance, and just the prestige of that program, and give them a top seed.
Yeah, so again, folks, a couple good games signed in the top 25. Again, this evening with UConn winning, and also with Baylor also winning today. Crystal and Eric, our good pal Charlie Cream of ESPN and the bracketology expert, has his current bracket out. But quickly, a couple of things. One tweet quickly from Shorty, who says today, or right now, I should say. Shorty says to us, Kim needs a stylist with hashtag help her Crystal. And in the chat box as well, from our good pal Corey, who writes in saying, the committee said Baylor is their number 4 overall team today, so they'll probably stay there unless SC or ND loses. But we'll see what Charlie Creamer has to say for it. Looking over his bracket for right now at this point in time, at this point, his Bridgeport Regional would include the following teams. Seeded 1 through 16, the matchups would go as follows. UConn hosting Texas Southern 1 versus 16. Seton Hall, George Washington 8 and 9. Florida, James Madison 5 v 12. Syracuse and Albany 4 through 13. Missouri versus Ohio 6 versus 11. Maryland versus UT Martin 3 versus 14. West Virginia, Green Bay 7 through 10. Or versus 10, and ASU, Arizona State hosting UC Riverside from the Big West 2 versus 15. In Lexington, the Lexington Regional, easy for me to say, he has South Carolina hosting Morgan State. Looking across the way as well, Georgia and Colorado State 5 and 12. Stanford and South Dakota, Oklahoma State, Villanova, Louisville and Penn. Tennessee and Southern California 7 versus 10 in that regional, and as well. Ohio State taking on Iona as well. So again, this has not been updated as of yet. It was updated last week, so we'll wait for Charlie's next upcoming bracket. And thanks to Corey for letting me know about that. That was from last week. But again, we'll actually start updating you folks more often with that when we do get a chance to do so as well at this point in time as we go forward here with the. With everything else included. Looking ahead, guys, to tomorrow's schedule of games, if it would let me pull this up for another big Tuesday of women's basketball across the regions in the country tomorrow. A couple of top 25 games tomorrow will be going on, as mentioned. Tomorrow we'll have number 24 Oklahoma at Texas Tech at 4:30 Eastern, along with number 22 West Virginia at Iowa State, and also. Those are the lone, as of right now, the lone top 25 games that'll be going on tomorrow in the Division I ranks of NCAA women's basketball. And again, like we said, folks, as well, not a whole lot either that has occurred this evening as well in the WNBA. But again, we will remind you folks again that draft day again once more will be on April 14th again from the Mohegan Sun Arena in Uncasville, CT. Crystal and Eric, to stay with the WNBA briefly for a short time as we kind of get closer towards training camp with some overseas seasons ending. Crystal, I guess I would start with you on this one because I know there's been a lot that's happened, with, obviously 20th season, new schedule format, brand new, playoff format, new scheduling going on. But I guess, there's also more things internally with the league and teams going on. Crystal, I guess I would ask you for what is, like, the one big preseason WNBA season storyline that you're kind of keeping an eye on? Because I know there's a lot going on with teams and players, plus the new schedule change and the new format for the postseason. But what is either the one or two storylines you're kind of watching as you get closer and closer to training camp and draft day?
A story that I'm watching. Probably since it's Tamika Catchings last season, I'll probably be looking at that one. I wonder if they're going to give her a farewell tour, which I think they will. I mean, why wouldn't they? She's a legend in the sport. Yeah, I agree. I mean, she's a legend in the sport. That's probably the main one I'm going to be watching is the Tamika Catchings retirement. I don't want to call it a ceremony, but I guess her retirement tour to see exactly. Yeah, her farewell tour to see exactly how emotional that will be. Because I know when she retires, I mean that's one of the few original players that we have left. So it's kind of sad when you see all the older players start to leave.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. Obviously, Eric, I know there's, obviously, there's been a lot going on, of course, new schedule, new league president, new playoff format, 20th season, a lot of things going on. But what is the big off-season story that you're kind of monitoring as we get ready and get closer to the season and training camp and much more?
The big off-season story, well, I think the big off-season story would obviously be the hiring of the new president. But once basketball starts, everyone's just going to forget about that, I think. So this thing I will be watching most for, that's a tough question. I think I'd like to point out Phoenix Mercury because they have pretty much their core back now. They've got their team because 2014, man, that was just a buzzsaw. That team was incredible. That might have been the best basketball team I've ever seen. And they've got them all back now. They've got Penny back. They've got Diana back. Everyone's healthy again. But that's the key because that team really didn't have any big injuries. And it's really, really hard for a team, especially with a bunch of veterans, to stay consistently healthy throughout an entire season. So I'm going to be watching for the Phoenix Mercury to not only return to the dominance that they saw a couple years ago, but see if they can stay healthy, see if they can repeat that, because that's as big of a wild card as anything, in my opinion.
Eric, I would agree, though. I think for storylines, I think every team has their own storyline going forward into the season. Obviously, Phoenix reloaded and back to 2014 standards pretty much. Grinder's still there, Diana and Penny being back, and again, pretty much the return of a team that's going to rise from the dead basically in 2016 perhaps. LA having their own problems, of course, but getting back on track with them as well, and of course they've been there from day one. Seattle, interesting to see what they're going to do with the number one pick. It's, could be Breanna Stewart, could not be. Who knows? I'm sure it's going to be, but, you can't really, put it in pen or set it in stone just yet. And then across the way, San Antonio, what are they going to do with the number 2 pick? Dallas is going to be a new one, pretty much is a new team, their inaugural year in Dallas. That's a big storyline too, along with, what could happen between the Wings and Mercury when BG does face Glory Johnson for the first time all season as well. And, of course, Minnesota with the ring on their finger. They will be the hunted this year, of course, and then a very good team in New York, of course, that may make some more noise again in the Eastern Conference after their, rise from the dead basically as well. So there's a lot of good storylines team-wise. Real quick from the chat box, Crystal, for this one, Corey wants to know who makes or speculates or who makes the U.S. Olympic team is always a good story as well, actually, every 4 years. So that's also a good off-season storyline as well with that and going forward as well. We did have one response as well from Shorty about Tamika Catchings. She said Catchings will go on her legacy tour in her final season. And I believe that started the day with her having a book signing in downtown Indianapolis today as well. And also, guys, I want to also get to a media shout-out, to both LaChina Robinson and Shanae Agumake, who are going to be having their own college women's basketball podcast on ESPNW. Crystal, a pretty groundbreaking achievement for these two really good women's basketball minds. Obviously, Shanae, coming off of last year with that microfracture knee surgery, did a lot of work for ESPN this college basketball season. Of course, LaChina has done a lot of great work with NBA TV as a silent reporter with Fox Sports South for the Dream Games with the great man himself, Bob Ratburn from Fox Sports South during the Dream season. Crystal, I guess now that we have our network here for the pros and also for the W and for the college ranks, so now that we got this, Crystal, I guess, what are your thoughts now that we will have, our own college basketball podcast run through ESPN now with LaChina Robinson and Shanae Agumake as the hosts?
I mean, I think that's amazing. That's more viewers, more people who follow women's college basketball. And then on top of that, you have Shanae Agumake, who is one of the best personalities in the league. I mean, really entertaining, really funny, really nice. And LaChina Robinson is very knowledgeable. She's, been around the WNBA and college basketball. So I'm expecting it to be a very knowledgeable podcast, a very fun, entertaining podcast. I mean, I think it's great.
Eric, what do you think? I know we talked about this last week for our 2-year anniversary about us being here, but now that we actually do have working professionals like LaChina Robinson and, of course, a player and, part-time broadcaster, Shanae Agumake. And again, Eric, with ESPNW and ESPN putting this on though as well, it's not like us how we do it for our free time when we're not in school or not working, either writing stories or announcing games, Eric. But what does this podcast now in your mind mean? Do you know that actually someone is taking the time out to actually set this up for women's professional and women's college basketball now with Shanae and LaChina?
It's terrific. It's been long overdue, and they really had a nice setup there because LaChina, she's so sharp. She's so passionate for the game, and every game she calls is a joy to listen to because she's always really prepared. She has such a passion for the game. She's so knowledgeable, and of course, you guys know I love Shanae. I love my Agumakes. Like Crystal said, she's a great person. She's a great player, but she's let me put it this way: she's got a broadcasting gig sewn up already. I mean, there's no doubt about what she's going to be doing after her career is over. So I think, and they have really good chemistry together too, because I think they were featured on NBA TV a few times during the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken, and they work really well together. So I think it's really cool because it shows that they went out and not only did they realize that they needed this sport to be covered more in depth, to have a program dedicated to it, and on a podcast no less. It's not like a program on TV, but still a social media aspect. But they also found two people who work very well together and who are just really on top of it, So I think you're going to see it grow very quickly.
Yeah, and with that, folks, a shout-out and salute to both LaChina Robinson and Shanae Agumake for the launch of their brand-new podcast coming up very shortly, run through ESPN and ESPNW. Crystal, to you from a question from our good pal and the man himself, Steve Rice of Women's Basketball Daily, chiming in. Crystal, with the unfortunate and very depressing news about your dear friend Jillian Alleyne and her ripped ACL, Steve wants to know, is she still a first-round pick despite the injury?
First, I just want to say that one really hurt me when I found that out because I've seen how hard Jill has worked to get where she was. And then the fact that she just kept working, she never stopped working. So that actually, and then it happened on my birthday too. So that was kind of something that I was just like, wow. I do think she'll probably still get picked up, but I think she's going to drop a little bit. I don't remember at her on their mock drafts anyway, but the fact that this injury occurred when it did, it came at a horrible time, horrible time. But more so, I mean, I think she's still going to get picked up. It's just now, it might be like a Natalie Anchanwa thing. She get picked up. It's just going to be a lot of rehab, a lot of hard work getting back. But I mean, at this point, it just sucks that she was just doing so well. That's the worst thing about this. She was just doing so well, and she's at practice, just working hard. Her team, that happens. I have talked to her since the injury. She seems to be doing okay. I mean, I can imagine how you would feel if your college career just ended like that and it was on such a high note. But she seems to be doing okay. I know Jill, though she's tough, she'll be back. She'll come back better and stronger. But I do think she still has a shot.
Eric, what do you think? In spite of the injury, we saw Natalie Achuan go in spite of her injury at Notre Dame last season in the draft somewhere along the lines. What do you think, though, dude?
Yeah, I echo basically everything that Crystal said. It's a real shame because she was having a Player of the Year type season, Pac-12 Player of the Year at least. But and just to see somebody who works so hard, uh, leaves it all out on the floor every night, and the clear leader of that team. I mean, if you've seen Oregon play since Jill went down, it has not been good, not at all. And uh, as far as her draft status goes, no, I don't think she's going to be a first rounder anymore because
Mhm.
she's not going to be playing this season, and teams need somebody who can contribute immediately. But I do think it's going to be a case like a Chanwell, like Izzy Harrison, Nneka Enampali, because Jill can play. I mean,
Mhm.
she's going to come back. There's no doubt about that. And if she's still, she's still going to be there in the second round now. So if a team feels they're set for the season and they can afford, you know, drafting her and waiting on her for a year while she rehabs, then I think they'll do that because I think she's still going to be a good player in the future.
And by the way, guys, Shorty Mama 24, Tanisha Stewart popped in and she said she has Jill going as a late first round to early second round pick in her draft right now. And a quick tweet as well from one of our Twitter followers who wanted to shout me out for saying thanks for reminding me about Catch's last game. Got to cop those ticks when she comes to LA. So good to hear about that. Also, folks, before we do close up shop for the night, and quickly, we have a question from Steve directed to you. Steve is asking, who is your ideal pick at number 10 in the first round and why?
Number 10 for the Sky. Okay. Let's see here.
Putting you on the spot, big guy. Just let you know.
No. It's not putting me on the spot because I think about this every night before I go to sleep. First thing when I wake up, it's always on my mind. No. I like Adut Bogak from Florida State for a few reasons. One, she can shoot the ball. She can put it on the floor. She's very versatile offensively, and defensively she's just so active. She's got those long arms. She's a good rebounder. She affects lots of shots. So Pokey likes to defensively. She likes to switch things up. She likes to have players hedge the pick and roll. She likes to have them switch on the pick and roll. Bulgak can definitely do that. She kind of makes Florida State's defense, if you will, because when she's out of the game, they play a much more vanilla style of defense. And I think her style of play, I think her style of play fits Elena's perfectly. If you put Elena at the 4 and Bulgak at the 5, yeah, Bulgak's probably not going to be like a true center, but we had a lot of success with a smaller lineup last year, one that could get out and run. And Bulgak has the height to play center in that sort of system, and she'd be better suited for that than say Jessica Breland because she's taller and she can shoot the 3. She can put the ball on the floor. I think she's just a great fit for us. If she's not around, I wouldn't mind taking a flyer on Boyette or Hamblin, although I think Boyette will be gone by then too. But we need a post. That's all I can summarize with.
All right, Steve, there's your answer for you about Eric's ideal pick at number 10 for Chicago Sky. Guys, before we do wrap up for the night, again, folks, only half an hour get together this evening. We'll come back tomorrow, hopefully, with some more news for you that we'll have, because, like I said, today was a really slow day at the office today. But, guys, more importantly, though, some good news in regards about the health and status of the network. As you guys may have saw his tweet very late last night into the early morning hours, maybe even earlier today. But after doing some number crunching and evaluating, folks, we are really ecstatic folks, that we have had 2 full months of viewer growth that has now taken us between 50 and now 72%. Our viewer growth, our viewership has grown a full 72% since relaunching the network on October 15th up until at least tonight. We have had a 72% increase over viewership, and in all the categories, folks, remain going up in the right direction. So, Crystal, I'm telling you, between evaluating everything that we talked about on the Tier Anniversary Show up until now, that we now have have had our viewership increase by almost 70% in just pretty much, I'd say roughly almost 4 in 4 really brief months that we've had the viewership increase by almost a full 72%. I can't fathom that, and I still, And yes, I do go crazy because, this was, like I said, a very crazy, stupid idea at the beginning. But hey, Crystal, what do you got to say? 72% our viewership has gone up since we sat down and reconfigured everything about the network. So what do you got to say for that? I don't know what else to say, but what do you got?
That means we're doing something right. You want the viewership to go up and not down, and something is going correctly. That's all I can say is, something is going well. I don't understand why they would want to see all of us on here, though, because we're not that cool. We're not that interesting. If you're watching us, you must be bored or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. You have to, no, but I think it's amazing how people keep tuning in weekly, and that just shows you that, like I said, we're doing something correctly and that we're entertaining for the people. So we appreciate it.
Eric, when we first went on the air tonight, and again, it was kind of rough at the beginning. We were still working out technical difficulties. I didn't have a whole lot in front of me because, again, there wasn't a lot to talk about today in the league. But as soon as we went live, Eric, we had at least 10 people tune in at the very start of the program, and we've had 6 stay for the entire 30-minute get-together tonight. That just shows, though, that we've been able to, of what we've built here after, sitting down, reestablishing order, and all the changes that we made, the rebrand and stuff, and for me to look over the numbers and to look at our monthly report and see growth in viewership at 72% going up. Obviously, man, in 4 months we've really done something special here. What do you have to say about it, though, to see that number, where it's at right now?
First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much to the 6 people who stayed for the entire half hour. I know it was difficult, but I really appreciate you guys. You are my guys. Thank you very much. As far as the station growth goes, once again, I echo Crystal's sentiments. It's just cool because it feels like we're actually accomplishing something and not just wasting our evenings doing this. So it's always a good feeling when you think you're not doing nothing.
Yeah. So pretty much that. And by the way, Eric, Corey Chatterjee already said viewership has gone through the roof since you signed Eric. I think ESPN should sign him up next. That was a total joke. I apologize, with a laughing face emoji. But I think we should all be signed because we would definitely clean up the WNBA coverage on ESPN. With that, though, folks, we run out of time for the night. We'll quit while we're ahead. We'll try to do better the next time. And only we'll have a more put together and a better built show tomorrow night, and hopefully we'll have a bit more people in here as well to have fun. And by the way, Crystal Shorty wants to throw you under the bus now by saying we are awesome in parentheses except for Crystal. So yeah, we will just leave it at that, folks. We'll come back tomorrow night, and hopefully we'll have some more folks join us, and hopefully we'll have some more news to report for you folks in the WNBA and women's basketball world. But until tomorrow night, have a safe night. Drive home safely. Thanks for stopping by and joining us, and good night. For Eric in Elmhurst, Illinois, and for Crystal up in Los Angeles, Calvin Clerk in San Diego signing off. See you tomorrow night, folks. More to come where that came from tomorrow again, back here at 9 o'clock PST with hopefully more news and more people in the hangout. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.